And it is something to note that there are people walking around in what is a mandatory evacuation. So I don't know the details there, but
heading down the steps and they stop because they see that wave crashing on. I mean, look at that. Especially during high tide, it's dangerous. Let's bring in Fox Weather storm specialist Mike Seidel, who's in Kitty Hawk. And Mike, in a lot of ways, I mean, we're watching the wave action, but once high tide hits, that's when this risk is the greatest. And that's what we saw yesterday on Hatteras Island. Parts of NC-12 had some washover.
And it was worse this morning, and it will get worse with each succeeding high tide. Next one here, Kitty Hawk on the north side of the Outer Banks. Here's the tide going out. Is going to come up and go beyond where it was this morning. Here's the high tide this morning, right here, where you can see the differentiation in the color of the sand, where the sand got wet right up here this morning. And you notice the folks out on the beach here are right at the edge, but I'm sure they'll be out of here before we have high tide. But no doubt the tide this afternoon and later this evening, or I should say early this evening, 5, 6, 7 o'clock, will come right up to the dune line. And I would be not surprised if the water goes over the dune line, or at least into the dunes tonight, later tonight and tomorrow into Friday morning. But Friday morning, the winds will go north, and that'll be more of a parallel push and not an onshore push for the most part. So we think the water is going to back off on Friday. Then they've got to get Highway 12 reopened, and that's going to take a while, a day and a half. A lot of sand, a lot of bulldozing. Front end loaders are already down there, as we showed you yesterday. We've got the double red flags. We'll spin around here. You can see, well, you can see one of them, but there are two there. They don't want you in the water today. Maybe toes and ankles, and that's it. It's just way too dangerous. And as Stephen and Marissa mentioned, that's pretty much the case up and down the East Coast. We've got surf and rip current statements, or both, from Florida all the way up to Cape Cod, Massachusetts. That's about 1,200 miles. 1,200 miles of impact from a hurricane. Again, it's not going to make landfall, and nobody is in the cone. So once again, re-emphasizing the fact, you look at the cone, we're not in the cone, no problems. That couldn't be farther from the truth here on these beaches on the East Coast. And even though if you go 10 to 15 miles inland, the worst is going to be some wind. Out here, we really are concerned about how bad these beaches are hit, how much they're decimated, because you've got the tide coming in higher each successive cycle. You've got the waves picking up. Now, the highest wave I've seen so far is about 17 and change out at Hatteras. The areas from Oregon Inlet north to Duck offshore running 7 to about 9 feet. So that's going to be increasing. We have more of a wash tub effect this morning. And then you throw in the storm surge. We have that warning for the Outer Banks, a surge of up to 4 feet, 2 to 4 feet. That's above normally dry ground. So say if this was the typical high tide, which it isn't, it's higher than normal, then you add 2 to 4 feet up, and that's what we're talking about. So think about that. The water coming up, and then the waves superimposed, those huge waves superimposed on the actual storm surge. Offshore now, we've actually got our first rain shower. You can see, I don't know if you can see it on camera with the naked eye, I can see kind of some of the bands coming down, kind of the shaft set up. That is rotating towards the coast. I don't know if it'll clip us or go into our north, but it's not a very heavy shower, just maybe a few minutes of rainfall. We've got a ways to go. We are going to get some of those rain bands, Stephen and Marissa, tomorrow with Hurricane Erin. Not a forecast of much rain at all. Not concerned about flooding or flash flooding or anything inland as far as that goes. But we're far enough east that some of those outer bands may scrape the Outer Banks. And some of those bands where you have the tropical squalls, that's where we would get the highest wind gust, 50 miles an hour, maybe a little bit higher.
There have been indications, too, that winds have been gusting in excess of that 74-mile-per-hour threshold, more than 90 miles removed from the center of Erin. The hurricane hunter's flying in that right now, Mike. So, yeah, we're going to watch those bands pretty carefully. Of course, we're waiting on that update, but watching those showers, stay away. People still want to enjoy the beach as long as they can today there in Kitty Hawk. We appreciate it. Fox Weather storm specialist Mike.
And the big difference today is we have clouds, and we have a pretty decent breeze, about a 10-mile-an-hour breeze off the water. So that's really making it a lot more comfortable for the crew out here and for the people that want to come out to the beach and don't want to, sweat. I'm sure some of these folks would rather have some sun and work on their late summer tans, though.
The summer glow.
Well deserved. And as you know, you still got to wear that SPF, even with the clouds.
That is true.
Still get those rays. All right, Mike Seidel, appreciate that.